friends, and welcome back to The Reading Room. We're so excited to be back today after an extended hiatus, and we're extremely grateful for those of you that are back with us and who are looking forward to more reading videos. We're excited to get back into the saddle and to start reading more from this incredible book. Of course, it's called The Book of Incredible Information. In this particular reading, we'll be learning about lots of trivia, incredible information, and weird facts related to outer space. We hope you'll find it interesting and enlightening. Let's get started. Chapter 14. Outre Space. Give me a star. We've all been there. Your spouse's birthday is fast approaching, and you haven't a clue what to buy. You wander the malls hopelessly, avoiding the raving packs of wild teenagers, as your palms sweat and your heart pounds. Time is slipping away, and you can't find anything. You leave the mall and raise your fist to the heavens, cursing the stars. Wait a minute, the stars. Can't you buy those things? No, you can't. Sorry. Despite what dozens of fly-by-night companies may tell you, the names of stars are not for sale. In fact, there is only one organization that has the right to give stars their names: the International Astronomical Union, or the IAU. And sadly, it probably won't accept your suggestion of naming a star after your wife or husband. The IAU has very strict and serious guidelines regarding how it names newly identified stars. Indeed, everything about the IAU is serious. Founded in 1919 and headquartered in Paris, the IAU is made up of nearly 10,000 highly educated astronomers in 87 countries. In other words, it ain't hawking star names on late-night TV. The official star naming process begins when a star is discovered. This happens more often than one might think, with an estimated 1 sextillion. 1 followed by a lot of zeros. One sextillion stars in the universe. There is no shortage of work for the IAU. Of course, most of these stars are in distant galaxies, far from the reach of our most powerful telescopes. Still, there are billions of stars from which to choose within our own galaxy. Coming up with a witty name for each one, as you might imagine, would be a chore. Thus, the IAU came up with a decidedly boring but nevertheless effective system, or we should say systems, as there are at least a dozen different catalogs that the IAU uses to assign names, depending on a star's distance from Earth and its brightness. These catalogs often assign names to stars based on their coordinates in the sky, which works well because it makes cylindrical carbon molecules that make steel look like a 98-pound weakling. A space elevator's main component would be a 60,000 odd mile nanotube ribbon measuring about as thin as a sheet of paper and about 3 feet wide. It gets weirder. The ribbon would require a counterweight up at the top to keep it in place. The counterweight hooked to the nanotube ribbon would be an asteroid pulled into Earth's orbit, or a satellite. Once secured, the ribbon would have moving platforms attached to it. Each platform would be powered by solar energy, reflecting lasers, and could carry several thousand tons of cargo up to the top. The trip would take about a week. Transporting materials to outer space in this fashion would supposedly reduce the cost of, say, putting a satellite into orbit from about $10,000 a pound to about $100 a pound. The base of the elevator would be a platform situated in the eastern Pacific Ocean near the equator, safe from hurricanes and many miles clear of commercial airline routes. The base would be mobile too, so that it could be moved out of the path of a lot of theoretical kinks. Moved out of the path of potentially damaging debris orbiting Earth. Although there are a lot of theoretical kinks to work out, the more optimistic of the scientists who have hatched this scheme believe the whole thing could be a reality within a couple of decades. The area that doesn't exist. Who killed JFK? Did Americans really land on the moon? Conspiracy theorists have been debating these questions for years, but they all agree on one thing. These conspiracies pale in comparison to the mother of all conspiracies, Area 51. Alien autopsies, covert military operations, tests on bizarre aircraft. These are all things rumored to be going on inside Area 51, a top-secret location inside the Nevada Test and Trading Range, NTTR, about an hour northwest of Las Vegas. Though shrouded in secrecy, some of the history of Area 51 is known. For instance, this desert area was used as a bombing test site during World War II, but no facility existed on the site until 1955. At that time, the area was chosen as the perfect location to develop and test the U-2 spy plane. Originally known as Watertown, it came to be called Area 51 in 1958, when 38,000 acres were designated for military use. The entire area was simply marked Area 51 on military maps. Today, the facility is rumored to contain approximately 575 square miles, but you won't find it on a map because officially it doesn't exist. An impenetrable fortress. Getting a clear idea of the size of Area 51, or even a glimpse of the place, is next to impossible. Years ago, curiosity seekers could get a good view of the facility by hiking to the top of two nearby mountain peaks, known as White Sides and Freedom Ridge. But government officials soon grew weary of people climbing up there and snapping pictures, so in 1995 they seized control of both. entrance to Area 51 is along Groom Lake Road. Those brave or foolhardy souls who have ventured down the road to investigate quickly realize they are being watched. Video cameras and motion sensors are hidden along the road, and signs alert the curious that if they continue any further, they will be entering a military installation, which is illegal without the written permission of the installation commander. If that's not enough to get unwanted guests to turn around, one sign clearly states, "Use of deadly force authorized." Simply put, take one step over that imaginary line in the dirt, and they will get you. Camo dudes. Just exactly who are they? They are the camo dudes, mysterious figures watching trespassers from nearby hillsides. If they spot something suspicious, they might call for backup. Black Hawk helicopters that will come in for a closer look. All things considered, it would probably be best to just go back home. And lest you think about flying over Area 51, the entire area is considered restricted airspace, meaning that unauthorized aircraft are not permitted to fly over. Who works there? Most employees are general contractors who work for companies in the area, but rather than allow these workers to commute individually, the facility has them ushered in secretly and en masse in one of two as a result of coming into contact with the fumes of the chemicals. The suit alleged that 2 of the contractors died, and the 5 survivors suffered respiratory problems and skin sores. Reporters worldwide jumped on the story, not only because it proved that Area 51 existed, but also because the suit was asking for many classified documents to be entered as evidence. Would some of those documents refer to alien beings or spacecraft? The world would never know, because in September 1995, while petitions for the case were still going on, President Bill Clinton signed the Presidential Determination Number 9545, which basically stated that Area 51 was exempt from federal, state, local, and interstate hazardous and solid waste laws. Shortly thereafter, the lawsuit was dismissed due to a lack of evidence, and all attempts at appeals were rejected. In 2002, President George W. Bush renewed Area 51's exemptions, ensuring once and for all that what goes on inside Area 51 stays inside Area 51. So at the end of the day, we're still left scratching our heads about Area 51. We know it exists, and we have some idea of what goes on there, but there is still so much more we don't know. More than likely, we will never know everything, but then again, what fun is a mystery if you know all the answers? The Moon Man. Though an unlikely turn of events, the scientist in charge of developing the Nazis' V-2 rocket would help the Americans reach the moon. Born in 1912, Werner Magnus Maximilian Freyer von Braun had a pedigree of greatness. His father, Baron Magnus von Braun, was the Minister of Agriculture under the Weimar Republic, and his mother was descended from Swedish and German aristocrats. At age 12, inspired by Fritz von Opel's land speed records, he took a rocket-propelled trip after lighting 6 large skyrockets fitted onto a wagon. The wagon careened crazily about, Braun recalled, trailing a tail of fire like a comet. The propellants made a thunderous noise, alarmed police nearby, and Braun was briefly put under police custody. From skyrockets to the vengeance weapon. Inspired by scientist Hermann Oberth's landmark 1923 work, The Rocket into Interplanetary Space, in 1930, Braun attended Berlin's Charlottenburg Institute, where he worked with Oberth on liquid-fueled rockets. As Nazi Germany rearmed in the 1930s and banned research on civilian rockets, Braun began work conducting missile tests for the Wehrmacht's Ordnance Corps. He formed a long-term friendship with an artillery captain, Walter Dornberger, who arranged funding for Braun's doctorate. Braun and Dornberger went on to work at Peenemünde as technical and military directors. Along the way, Braun joined the Nazi Party. He later stated, "My refusal to join would have meant abandoning the work of my life." Braun missile, renamed by Joseph Goebbels as the Fergal-Tungswaffel 2, the Vengeance Weapon 2, or V2. The shorter-range V1 buzz bomb was designed by engineer Robert Lusser under Luftwaffe supervision. The designer of the V2 engine was Walter Thiel, who was killed during a 1943 British air raid. The 46-foot-long ethanol and water-fueled missile could hurl its 2,800-pound warhead some 200 miles. Its highest recorded altitude was 117 miles, making it the first craft to reach outer space. But its guidance system was inaccurate. Chances were about even that it would come within 10 miles of a target. Ironically, Braun regarded the V2 primarily as a device for space travel and was briefly imprisoned by the Gestapo in 1944 for his presumed disinterest in weaponry. Death from the skies. Hurtling down from an altitude of 60 miles at supersonic speeds that no fighter could catch, the V2 struck without warning. The V2 was a truly remarkable machine for its time, recalled Braun. From September 1944 to March 1945, 3,172 V2s were successfully launched. 1,610 hit the vital port of Antwerp. 1,358 hit London. In one incident, 567 people died after a V2 landed in a Belgian movie house. The attacks on the British capital killed 2,754 and wounded 6,523. The Nazis relied on the weapons even when impractical. 11 V2s were fired toward the Remagen Bridge, while Patton's troops poured over the Rhine into Germany. The British incessantly bombed fixed sites for launching the missiles, so the V2s were fired instead from mobile launchers. The equipment and fuel borne by a caravan of 30 trucks. It took 2 hours to set up the rocket, launch the V2, and repack the equipment and crew. The German missile program also successfully tested a rocket U-boat, which fired V2s from a submarine-towed platform. Had the method been developed sooner, Germany may have used the subs to launch rockets from off the US coastline. German scientists worked on chemical weapon agents for the V2. Braun's technicians also adapted the V2 into the Wasserfall, perhaps the first anti-aircraft missile. Created in deplorable conditions. Much of this ordnance was built with slave labor. The V2's chief assembly plants, called Mittelwerk, were in the Harz Mountains near the town of Nordhausen. There, Russian, Polish, and French inmates from the nearby Dora concentration camp dug out an underground factory from an old mine. The V2's top engineer, Arthur Rudolph, helped arrange for the transfer of the inmates after SS General Hans Kammler, an engineer who had built Auschwitz, came up with the idea of using slave labor for rockets. Braun visited the Mittelwerk plant often enough to know find myself in the same striped fatigues. I realized that any attempt of reasoning on humane grounds would be utterly futile. A new life for the Nazi scientist. As the war ground to a close, Braun again faced the SS. In spring 1945, Soviet troops close to 100 miles of Peenemünde. Most of the V2 staff decided to surrender to the Western Allies, but in the meantime the SS was ordered to liquidate the rocket engineers and burn their records. With forged documents, Braun and 500 of his staff put together dozens of train cars, as well as about 1,000 automobiles and trucks, and headed toward advancing American troops. At the end of the journey, Braun's brother Magnus buttonholed the GI. "My name is Magnus von Braun. My brother invented the V2. We want to surrender." The Americans took Braun and his staff into custody, recovered their hidden records, and seized hundreds of freight loads of V2 components. Under Operation Paperclip, Braun, his team, their families, caches of scientific records, and enough V2 components for 100 missiles were brought to America. Since their Nazi associations would have barred many from visas, the scheme was hush-hush. Stationed at Fort Bliss, Texas, they called themselves prisoners of peace. At the White Sands Proving Grounds in New Mexico, they continued their missile work. Progress was rapid. By October 24th, 1945, one of their reconstituted V2s snapped photos from space. Thereafter, Braun was transformed into an honored, naturalized American citizen and fulfilled his boyhood dreams. He married his German sweetheart and had 3 children. In 1950, his group moved to Huntsville, Alabama, and designed the Army's Jupiter ballistic missile, which later launched the first U.S. satellite. He made television programs with Walt Disney that argued for manned spaceflight. In 1960, in the wake of Sputnik, he was made head of the NASA team that built the Saturn V rocket, which ferried Americans to the moon. He retired in 1972 when NASA opted for the Earthbound Space Shuttle instead of a piloted mission to Mars. How was the moon born? Here's one thing we know for certain about the moon. It isn't made of cheese. Most everything else, including its origins, is a matter of scientific reasoning and speculation. Mooning over the moon. Our planet's moon, our only true natural satellite, has stimulated romance, mystery, and scientific curiosity. And no wonder, besides the sun, the moon is the most noticeable member of our solar system, measuring about 1/4 the size of Earth. Only one side faces our planet, and every month, because of its orbit around us, we watch the moon change phases, from full to quarter to gibbous to new and back. The moon is also the subject of various origin theories, which alternately lauded as a deity or discounted as a flying chunk of rock, depending on the culture. Blinded by science. The list of scientific theories concerning the moon's origin is a bit smaller. One theory suggests that the moon was captured by Earth's gravity as it traveled by our planet moon has simply tagged along with us ever since. The most recently accepted theory has its origins in the 19th century. In 1879, the son of British astronomer George Darwin, son of Charles Darwin, suggested that a rapidly spinning Earth threw off material from the Pacific Ocean, creating the moon. The idea drew criticism on and off for decades, but thanks to the advent of modern computers, scientists have created a similar theoretical scenario that makes part of Darwin's suggestion more reasonable. The data suggests that while Earth was still in a semi-molten state, it was hit by a space body, a protoplanet or planetesimal, almost the size of Mars, or about half the size of Earth. The massive collision would have sent a huge chunk of broken material into orbit around Earth. Over time, those larger pieces could have gathered together thanks to gravity, creating our moon. It's all relative. Why do scientists now agree with the moon, daughter of Earth theory? One of the main reasons is the US moon missions. Astronauts gathered and delivered more than 800 pounds of lunar material back to Earth. The dates of those rocks, ranging from 3.2 to 4.2 billion years old, from material gathered from the flat dark Maria lava seas, and 4.3 to 4.5 billion years old for rocks from the highlands, along with their composition, have led scientists to believe that the moon is definitely related to Earth. The evidence is in the fact that the rocks are similar to Earth's mantle material, the moving molten layer of our planet just under the crust. If a huge planetary body struck our planet, it would make sense that the resulting material would be similar to rock deep below Earth's surface. In addition, moon rocks have exactly the same oxygen isotope composition as Earth's rocks. Materials from other parts of the solar system have different oxygen isotope compositions, which means that the moon probably formed around Earth's neighborhood. Is the moon our only satellite? Scientists know that there are other space bodies circling our planet, but none of the objects can be considered a moon. They are more likely asteroids caught in the Earth's and moon's gravitation. For example, the asteroid 3753 Cruenth looks like it's following Earth in the orbit around the Sun. The asteroid 2002 AA29 follows a horseshoe path near Earth. Neither is a moon, and so far, neither rock has been in danger of striking our planet. Another object once caught scientists' eyes. Nearby, J002E3 was considered a possible new moon of Earth, until it was determined to be the third stage of a Saturn V rocket. And with that, we'll bring this particular reading session to an end. We hope that you've enjoyed reading all of this incredible information about outer space and man's attempt to conquer it. We hope it'll give you fodder for your next trivia night, for your next conversation among friends, or for the next time you watch Jeopardy, perhaps. interesting.